We'll, yeah, we'll get started here. Welcome everyone, and I know there'll be a few more that probably join us a little later. But I want to welcome you all today and welcome Ms. Karen Katz. She's going to do training for us today. She's a certified professional life coach. And she's going to touch the topic of emotional intelligence and show us how that works. I will let you know this is a 60-minute training and she's going to condense it to 30. So bear with her on that because that's hard to do sometimes. We know pushing things into a smaller box. But anyway, I won't take any more of her time. We'll record this and she may have some disclaimers on there for you after that. So I'll turn it over to Karen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ron. Welcome, everyone. I am Karen Katz, and it is an honor to be here with you today to talk about emotional intelligence, how it works, and how we can use it to help manage all the emotions that are being expressed or trying to be expressed during these difficult times. Two housekeeping things. Number one, if for some reason I disappear, do not worry. I have a backup. It just would take me about 30 to 60 seconds to get back up and running. So please bear with me. Number two, that chat function, the little bubble, I believe it should be the fourth one from the left for you too, is going to be the next best thing to me being there in person with you. Any comments, any questions as we go along, feel free to type them in the chat. It's more fun, more engaging for everyone that way. If there's something that you want to share privately, feel free to select the box with just my name. I believe if you go to the to option and click on the little arrow where it says everyone, you will find one where it says just my name. Any comments that come straight to me, I treat them as confidential. I do not call out any names. It just helps me make sure I include your question or your concern in the presentation, or I can offer you additional resources at the end. Please note that I don't know if that gets recorded, that chat function. Everything that we type in there, although it is directly to me, I am not sure if it gets recorded also. So bear that in mind. With that said, I invite you to take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, create a little parentheses in your day, letting go of the before, letting go of the after, and literally wiggling yourself inside that parentheses so that we can make the most out of this time together. I also want to invite you to acknowledge that what we've been going through for the past 18 months is a very big deal. Our minds and our bodies are doing the best they can to help us feel safe in a world that sometimes feels scary, to be anxious, frustrated, angry, disappointed, sad, upset, all absolutely normal emotions. It is extremely important that we remind ourselves that we are doing the best that we can with the resources that we currently have. We do not come with manuals. We're all trying to figure it out as we go. We didn't have any training for this. And when we go to bed at the end of the day and think about all the things we could have done better or all the pending things on the list that we didn't get to, it's important that we take just a little moment to acknowledge it's a lot and I'm doing the best I can. A little bit of compassion goes a long way. We normally have it with others, and my invitation is that we start having it with ourselves after working so many years with so many people. It is very clear that it's not something that comes natural to have compassion towards ourselves. It's something that we need to work on. And my invitation today is that you start inviting that into your life. I love the quote by Carl Rogers that reminds us, when I accept myself fully, then I can change. When I accept myself fully, then I can change. And yes, today we're going to add additional resources to our toolbox to help us manage whatever we're going through and to make any changes in our life that we feel necessary for us. With that, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence, how it applies both to personal and our professional lives. And I'm going to also ask you to apply it to one of the situations that maybe you've had recently or in the past through an activity this you will do by yourself. So you can reflect on it and see how you would incorporate some of what we discussed today to manage that situation in a different or better way should it present itself in the future again. So when we talk about emotional intelligence, it's the first thing is, have you ever met someone who just didn't get it, said the wrong thing, did the wrong thing, couldn't get along with anyone, missed cues at meetings, and it was just difficult to be around them? I know we're all getting a name in our heads. Most of the time when I ask this question, everybody has a family member on their minds. And now that the holidays are approaching us, right, it gets a little bit triggering. So this tool is going to be very useful if that's your case. This, unfortunately, we can't, as much as we would want to, change people. We can't do it, but learning emotional intelligence helps us navigate relationships, whether it be at work or at home, in a way that we can enjoy more fulfilling relationships with everyone. So what is emotional intelligence? It's our ability to understand and manage our own emotions and those of the people around us. People with a high degree of emotional intelligence know what they are feeling, what their emotions mean, and how these emotions affect their behavior and affect other people, their relationships. Emotional intelligence is both key in personal and professional lives too. Think about it for a second. Who's more likely to succeed? A leader who, when there's a mistake and something happens with a project, starts shouting at his team when he's under stress, or a leader who can stay more in control and calmly assess the situation, inviting the team together for a creative collaboration, right? So being able to control and manage our emotions will affect tremendously our personal relationships and our professional ones too. According to Daniel Goleman, who's an American psychologist who popularized emotional intelligence, he says there's 5 elements to it. Number 1, self-awareness. Number 2, self-regulation, being able to regulate our emotions. Number 3, motivation. 4, empathy. And 5, social skills. We're going to discuss all, most or all of them today. When we talk about emotions, what are emotions? Emotions produce are chemicals released in response to our interpretation of a trigger. It's a physiological reaction to an external or internal stimulus. Feelings, on the other hand, are self-perception of these emotions. They're more mental. The emotions come first, feelings come after, as the chemicals go to work in our body. Moods are a particular state of mind. This state of mind, whether it be cheerful or gloomy or reflective or humorous, moods are contagious. They are a lens through which we see all of our experiences. If we are in a gloomy mood, even the most significant and most meaningful events lose meaning. Our mood will control the way we see and interpret the situations. So there's primary and secondary emotions. Our primary emotions are our immediate reactions. They motivate us. They're the in the moment emotional response to something pleasant or unpleasant. The secondary emotions are generally ones that hinder us. When we experience a secondary emotion, we need to figure out why we're feeling that way and what it is trying to tell us. For example, anxiety, which is a secondary emotion, is often due to fear, which is a primary emotion. Sometimes we're not even aware what we are afraid of, or even that we're feeling fear, It could be many things at the same time. So it becomes expressed as general anxiety. Secondary emotions hinder us. They are the emotions that we have in response to the primary emotions not being recognized or expressed. A secondary emotion occurs when we don't value, listen, or respond to a primary emotion. If we don't express the primary emotion, it doesn't go away. A lot of us are not comfortable expressing our emotions. There's a variety of reasons. Maybe because we didn't feel it was acceptable when we were younger, maybe because the environment doesn't feel safe, maybe because in a work environment it doesn't feel appropriate, right? So it is important that we start processing these emotions ourselves in our own safe space. And how can we do that? For a lot of people, it is extremely helpful to keep a journal of their emotions and their behaviors to understand what the emotion means. This is how we can start using emotional intelligence to understand our emotions and how they affect us. So if I'm angry, I can write down what do I do when I'm angry, right? For me, when I am hurt, for example, I isolate, I shut down. And that affects relationships, right? It's so after we learn, because we start to see a pattern by keeping a journal of our reactions or our behaviors to our emotions, then we can start making changes and saying, oh, this way of behaving affects my relationship in this way, so I may want to find a different way to express the emotion. For some people, when they're angry, they yell. For some people, when they're sad, they cry. For some people, when they're hurt, they scream, they get angry. So they're not comfortable expressing hurt, they're more comfortable expressing anger. Other people are not comfortable expressing anger, so they put a smiley sticker on it and pretend everything's okay, but have more passive aggressive behaviors because they weren't able to express the emotion honestly. When I am overwhelmed, I make mistakes. Or when I am overwhelmed, I don't make decisions, right? Whatever it is that we are starting to see as a pattern, we can understand it better and look for ways to express it in a healthier way. I remember learning about some of these things when my kids were little and getting angry, right? It wouldn't be acceptable to hit the brother, but they still had to express the anger. So what ways are acceptable to express anger? And so in the book, it suggested teaching them to rip paper or to grab a pillow and hit the bed with a pillow, right? Giving them alternatives because these emotions need to be expressed. We don't eat our anger, it's going to come out another way, right? So for us as adults, I'm curious if anybody wants to share in the chat, what is a way that is easy for you to express anger? Have you found a healthy way that is acceptable for you that you want to share?
Hi, Coach Katz. My name's Laura. I will share that I like to express those feelings by writing them down using any words that I feel like using. And then I just close that document and I tell myself when I'm ready to let go of those feelings, I can delete that document.
Ooh, I love that one. Thank you. I'm going to teach that one to my clients for sure. Excellent. Excellent. So for other people, it's extremely helpful also exercise, whether it be kickboxing or plain boxing, right? Just sweating it out is another great way. I like that delete one so much. So anybody else who wants to share in the chat, feel free to type away as we keep talking. Keep in mind one thing with everything that's going on. Human beings, as humans, we crave information about the future. Uncertainty triggers the stress response. There was a group of people that was separated in two groups. They did research on this. In the first group, they told them you have 50% chance of getting a painful electric shock. The second group, they told them for sure you are going to get 100% a painful electric shock. Which group do you think had higher levels of stress and anxiety? 50% chance or 100% chance? Go ahead and type it in the chat. Group 1, group 2. Yep. What? 50%. Yeah. The 50, imagine that. Our minds would rather know, even if it's something bad, than not know. Not knowing is the worst. So imagine with all the uncertainty we are facing, and we have been facing for the last 18 months. Absolutely normal that we would be at extremely high levels of stress. These emotions, strong emotions going rampant, and our behaviors, right? Whatever they are, our pattern of behavior, just being expressed in whatever way. For many clients, they're crying more. I hear a lot of people overwhelmed. They snap a lot faster at colleagues or at their kids. Absolutely normal. But creating some awareness is what's going to help us be able to manage these emotions better. So we want to first understand the emotions. We want to understand them for ourselves, and we also want to understand them in others, right? Because everybody's at a very heightened aware of stress and strong emotions, right? So we're reacting to things a little bit maybe out of proportion for what is happening. And that's okay. So we need to start understanding and paying attention, becoming better listeners, and paying attention to non-verbal cues, because a lot of the times people are not comfortable saying, this hurt me. It makes them feel vulnerable. They're not comfortable. So instead of saying that, they might have a more passive aggressive, like we were saying before, reaction, right? So we want to tune into other people's signals, to other people's signs. We want to watch facial expressions. We want to take our time when we interact with people. And if we're not doing it in person, we also want to do it through this type of communication, like really paying attention, more listening to understand than listening to respond, right? And we want to start applying this for others the same way we are applying it to ourselves. So one of my favorite tools when we are under stress, something happens, right? When we're under stress and we didn't expect something happening, we're going to go into a state of resistance. We're going to go into protective mode, and everything in our body is going to tense up. In that state, we're trying to resist whatever is happening. That difficult client, difficult patient, that angry boss, that deadline at work, that unexpected letter, whatever it is, that reckless driver, right? We're trying to resist it. And we forget that what we resist persists. The easiest way to melt away and start regulating our emotions, melt away all the stress and regulate our emotions, is through the practice of acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean condoning or resigning or forgiving anyone. Acceptance has two parts. Part one is, this is a situation I'm being asked to handle. This is what I have to look at the situation. If I can't look at it, I can't change it. This is the situation. Part two, this is how I feel about it. It makes me angry. It makes me want to hit things. It makes me want to scream. It makes me want to cry. However it is that it makes me feel, I have to find a way to make it okay within myself to feel that way. As I do that, I am able to get out of the part of the brain, the amygdala, that is the reaction to the trigger, and I'm able to access the higher parts of my brain that allow a more calm, grounded response. This is where I can access my creativity, my resources, my calm, grounded space, my wisdom, right? I can't access it where I'm in reactive mode. Somebody said something, I answered back, and we just made it all worse, right? We're in the emotional center, we're in the amygdala, in the lower part of our brain. When we take a moment to accept this is the situation, press that pause button, try to understand what happened with our emotions, try to understand what happens with the other person, start to have that conversation more for listening to understand instead of listening to respond. Then we can come back to the higher part of our brain, more grounded, and remember the most important thing. No matter pandemic or whatever situation presents itself at work, at home, this is the most important thing, and we only have access to it when we're in the higher part of our brain. That no matter what happens, I always get to decide how I want to think about the situation, how I want to feel about the situation, and what I want to do about the situation. Nobody can take that power away from me. I get to decide if I want to stay, whether it is in a job or it is in a relationship, if I want to leave, if I want to have a difficult conversation, if I want to set a healthy boundary. If it's regarding a diagnosis, I can decide if I'm going to try an alternative treatment, if I'm going to speak to another doctor, whatever it is that I decide, I can access this calm space with options when I'm out of the lower part of my brain. Let me know if that is helpful, if anybody wants to share in the chat. And if you have any questions about that. It's probably the most important tool, and it is counterintuitive because the more something happens that we don't like, that difficult person, that difficult situation, the more we try to fight it, the worse it is. It's counterintuitive to just throw down the armor and just accept it, not resigning ourselves, but just to look at it so that we can get out of reaction mode and press that pause button. So the key ingredient in all of this is going to be empathy. Empathy is extremely important. It's our ability to emotionally understand what other people are feeling and see things from their point of view, imagining ourselves in their place. Essentially, it's putting ourselves in someone else's position and feeling what they must be feeling. In personal relationships, it's easy because we love people and it's just natural. At work, it gets a little bit harder, but it is extremely important too. We are quick to judge others reacting, right? Snapping, leading to damaging relationships. But empathy is about understanding that although we may not agree with what we see the other person doing, there is a little bit of a space to give them the benefit of the doubt because we don't know their story. We don't know what they've gone through. We don't know what type of day they've had. We don't know the details, right? For most of my life, most people would always tell me, "Oh, wow, you're such a happy person. You always have it together." I don't know. And I had gone through trauma when I was young. Nobody knew. Nobody knew my story, right? So they could assume a ton of things, but they didn't know. So we don't know what other people have gone through. And if we start giving people a little bit the benefit of the doubt, right? And giving ourselves the benefit of the doubt, it is key to start creating these relationships with people that we really want. We all want these fulfilling, satisfying relationships. I mean, we're human. That is a basic human need. We want to feel connected with people. We don't want to feel at odds or upset. Nobody does. So this is sometimes if we are not taking care of ourselves, right, and we are at a high level of stress, It's very hard to give another person the benefit of the doubt. So we have to start with us. We have to start putting the oxygen mask on ourselves in order to be able to support other people. If we are giving to others from a place of depletion, we can't give from an empty cup. We just can't. There's nothing to give. I love the idea of our internal world being ours alone. I love that too. Love that. So we have to take care of ourselves, my friends, and that's how we could start changing some controlling our emotions, right? In order to control our emotions, we want to be able to press that pause button. We want to literally, if we literally take a breath, slow breath, because when we're under stress, we're shallow breathing. If we take a slow breath in and just release it gently, immediately we can get out of that lower part of our brain and press that pause button. Pause. We've got to remember it takes two to tango. And if somebody might be in a bad mood or angry, we don't have to go to that party. We don't have to play with them if we don't want to. If somebody's rushed, and they need something right away, and can you do this? We don't have to say yes to something that we don't feel right. We can take a moment to say, let me pause. Let me get back to you on that, right? We don't have to be in reactive mode all the time. We could start inviting some mindfulness into our lives, and that's going to change everything. We cannot give to anyone if we don't take care of ourselves first. So controlling our emotions is key, pressing that pause button. The benefits of emotional intelligence at work are endless. It helps us stay calm under pressure, resolve conflict, behave with empathy, lead by example. We're more inspiring. We're more grounded. Emotional intelligent people in general feel more connected to others, feel more focused, more mindful, more accepting, more calm, more more connected, more grateful, right? So the invitation is, think about a situation, whether it was at home or at work, that caused an emotional reaction in you that you didn't like, and it created a situation that you didn't like. Not to think about, oh, what should have I done better? We didn't have the tools. So now that we spoke about all this, should that situation present itself in the future, what would you do different? I'm curious if you want to give that some thought and journal on it later today and see what you would do different, because what we learn, information is great, but if we don't apply it, it doesn't change anything, right? We want to apply it. We want to make use of it. We want to touch it. We want to live it. We want to breathe it. Keep in mind that you're not alone. You have support 24/7 through events like this and individual sessions through the EAP. All these topics are topics that you're supported on. If you're not sure if a topic is offered or not, I always say call. You'll be pleasantly surprised. There's the phone number, there's the website, the login. If you can take a moment to provide feedback, I would appreciate it very much. It helps us grow, it helps us improve. You can point your camera to the screen and just answer a few simple questions as I leave you with today's conclusion. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to stay an extra minute to answer any questions. In today's times, it's easy to work through lunch, dinner, respond to emails until 11 o'clock at night. But what happens when we feel exhausted, stressed out, overwhelmed? We're short, we snap, say things we don't mean, and then it leads to damaging our most precious relationships. If we just take a moment to breathe, assess what it is that we need, give it to ourselves, a whole new outlook opens up. We can see options more clearly. We can take care of whatever it is that we need, and we can give and support others from that place of abundance. The most important thing, my friends, is we cannot give from an empty cup. The oxygen mask has to go on us first. It is not selfish, it is essential. Please take very good care of yourselves. It's been an honor to spend these few minutes with you. If anybody has any questions, I am happy to stay an extra minute. I feel many emotions emerge from a biological process. Can journaling help us identify those things like dehydration, for example? Definitely journaling is magical. It's a great place to start. And thank you for that question. I love it. Absolutely amazing creating that self awareness. Sometimes, though, it is good to work with someone else, whether it be a coach, a mentor, or a therapist, right? Because sometimes it's hard for us to see the patterns or to identify the connection between things because we're inside the picture. So much easier for someone who's outside, right? I have clients tell me all day, "Oh, you're so right." I'm like, "I'm right because I can see your situation from out here, but I can't see my situation as clearly." So it is sometimes extremely helpful to work with someone. And I would say just be careful, not necessarily with a friend, right? Because if they don't have the high level of emotional intelligence or the skills, it's not necessarily as helpful. So let me know if that helped. And if anyone has any other questions, otherwise, Ron, I am passing it back to you.